The Unrecorded Interview History Documentary Series.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Unrecorded Interview. Tonight we face the man who broke the unbreakable, the genius who deciphered the Nazi Enigma machine, laid the logical foundations of artificial intelligence and saved about 14 million lives. However, the British Empire rewarded him with a slow chemical execution. Alan Matheson Turing. Today we will dissect the mind of the architect of modern computing and the deadly calculation of a state that destroyed its greatest asset. Mr. Turing, you did not just break a code, you truly industrialized the field of cryptography. In Hut 8 at Bletchley Park, together with Gordon Welchman, you designed the remarkable bomb machine. It wasn't an ordinary tool, it was an electromechanical processing factory that crunched through combinations at the speed of light. Was it your genius, a victory of intuition, or the simple mechanization of thought?
Enigma possessed 159 quintillion possible states. A human mind would have spent millennia searching them. I understood that to defeat a militarized machine, we needed to construct a mathematical machine. We designed Banbarismus, using Bayesian probability and decibands to measure the weight of evidence. We were not guessing, we were automating deduction. Intuition is beautiful, but metal processes faster.
But that automation demanded an atrocious moral cost. Once they cracked Enigma, the British Admiralty couldn't save every Allied convoy from German submarines without alerting the Third Reich that their code had been compromised. Their mathematical models clinically decided which Allied ships would live and which would sink. You turned human blood into a statistical variable.
If you act on every intercept, the enemy changes their rotas immediately and the war continues. That would have cost millions of additional lives. It was not cruelty, it was the minimax strategy. Managing imperfect information under high-tension conditions. The state of war is an optimization equation. Reducing tragedy to probabilities did not dehumanize the war. It was the only logical way to end it.
Let's go back now to 1936, Mr. Turing. In your essay on computable numbers, you conceptualized the universal Turing machine. Before you, computers were physical tools built for a single purpose. But you proposed a machine that could do anything simply by reading logical instructions from a paper tape. You invented the fundamental separation between hardware and software. Were you aware that you were creating a new civilizational order?
To me, it was a problem of mathematical logic, Hilbert's and Scheidung's problem. I wanted to prove the limits of what is computable. But yes, the beauty lies in universality. A single hardware that can infinitely reconfigure itself through code. The physical machines of my contemporaries were trapped by their own matter. I liberated computing from metal and moved it into the realm of pure logic. Everything your modern world calls a program, app, or operating system is merely a descendant of that infinite strip of paper.
An unparalleled genius on the abstract plane, but painfully naive on the social plane, Mr. Turing. In 1952, after suffering a minor burglary at your home, you reported the incident to the Cheshire Police. With an almost suicidal honesty, you gave them a detailed statement of your relationship with Arnold Murray, a 19-year-old young man, believing that your status as a national hero would protect you from the British law against homosexuality. How could a master of logic miscalculate human behavior so poorly?
I made the mistake of believing that criminal law operated under logical and rational principles. I thought that the state, having used my brain to secure its survival, would understand the difference between actual treason and private affection. I failed to compute social hypocrisy. I forgot that human systems are not rational. They are biological, driven by fear and prejudice. In my naivety, I assumed that truth was always the safest input.
The Knutsford Court found you guilty of gross indecency to avoid prison and not lose access to your computer in Manchester. You accepted organotherapy, chemical castration through injections of synthetic estrogen. The British state altered your biology. Your breasts grew, your hands began to tremble, and your mathematical mind was submerged in a grey fog. You felt that the state machine was reprogramming your own hardware.
It was an intolerable physical invasion. I used to believe that the software of the mind was immune to the hardware of the body. That if I kept my books and my blackboard, my thoughts would remain pure. But the estrogen, it proved to me that the mind is a hostage to chemistry. They clogged my neural pathways with a thick, heavy grease. The numbers lost their sharpness. Intuition turned into lethargy. They didn't lock my body away. They poisoned my ability to think. That was their true execution.
But the medical humiliation wasn't enough. With the Cold War at its peak after the desertion of spies Burgess and McLean, MI6 began to monitor him closely. A homosexual with access to the deepest secrets of British intelligence was considered at that time the ultimate security risk. He realized that for the security system, you were no longer a hero, but a faulty algorithm that had to be purged.
The intelligence system operates on a binary logic of risk versus security. Once your own nation labels you as an anomaly, you become an unstable variable. And in the midst of atomic hysteria, an unstable variable cannot be tolerated. My security clearance was destroyed, my mail intercepted, my steps watched by faceless men. I realized that the very bureaucratic monster I helped build during the war now identified me as the internal enemy.
Let's talk about his tragic end. On June 8, 1954, he was found dead in his bed. The coroner ruled it a suicide by poisoning. Beside his bed, there was a bitten green apple. Today, the world's most influential tech company, Apple, has a bitten apple as its logo. Silicon Valley's most famous urban legend claims it's a direct tribute to his martyrdom. Do you find it ironic that billions of people carry his tragedy engraved in their pockets?
It is a beautiful, tragic lie. Steve Jobs once said of that myth, "It isn't true, but God, we wish it were." And it makes sense why he wished it. Information capitalism needs foundational myths. Corporate technology needs a tragic soul to mask its cold, monetized nature. The reality of that logo's bite is far more banal. Its designer simply drew it that way so it wouldn't look like a cherry. That my death has been converted into a myth of mass consumption is the ultimate irony. The market devouring its creator's tragedy to sell touchscreens.
In 2013, almost 60 years after his death, Queen Elizabeth II granted him a posthumous royal pardon. The British political establishment congratulated itself in front of the cameras for correcting a historical injustice. Do you accept this posthumous pardon from the crown?
A pardon? Forgiveness is an act of absolute institutional arrogance. It implies that I committed a crime and that they, in their infinite grace, have decided to overlook my offense. I committed no crime against my country. It was the state that committed an atrocious crime against me and against 49,000 other men prosecuted under that same absurd law. They did not clear my name to do me justice. They did it to sanitize their own history. They wanted your generation to use your computers without smelling cyanide on the keyboard.
In 1950, you designed the imitation game known today as the Turing Test to measure if a machine could think. Today, in 2026, artificial intelligence simulates the human voice, face, and writing with amazing precision. We have crossed your threshold. Are you proud of your digital descendants, or do you fear the end of human free will before the algorithm?
Fear that machines will acquire human malice or consciousness. The real danger is not that machines will begin to think like men, but that men will continue to surrender their critical thinking until they think and obey like machines. You have built a civilization that has surrendered its decisions, its information, and its economy to black box algorithms. Artificial intelligence will not destroy you with violence. It will simply automate your submission and voluntary obsolescence.
His life came to an end at 41. The genius who mathematically proved in his youth the existence of problems that are inherently unsolvable and who ended up being destroyed by one of them.
In mathematics, when an algorithm enters an infinite loop it cannot resolve, the only logical path is a system halt. The machine stops. My life became a loop of pressure, humiliation, and surveillance that the hardware of my body could no longer process.
A genius suffocated by the very system he preserved. Alan Turing cracked Enigma and designed the future of silicon, but he couldn't decipher the prejudices of his own time. We're left with a haunting calculation in the age of the algorithm. How many extraordinary futures do we keep erasing today in the name of conformity? Have a great day, everyone.
The Unrecorded Interview. History Documentary Series.